Is it. I hope this is working. Looks like it's working. My name is James PFP. People call me James often. My name is also Jim. And I was thinking about this for quite some time. My name is also James. If you're wondering about the PFP part, you could go with James. You could call it that way. You could call me that way. I think that would be a fitting memorial for my YouTube life, is to be called James, if you hear me. Hey, I've got some video work to do tonight. So since I have some video work to do, I figured I might as well do the video work here. And since I could do some of that video work here and at the same time, be online streaming it as I do it, it struck me as perhaps a good time to go on stream. So what I'm going to do, that's my Blender window. I'll lock that down. I'm also going to load a window here for the live chat. So I've got to add this window. I'm going to do that right now though. I'll make sure the window's open. There's lots of things happening all at one time. I hope this isn't going to crash like in flames and stuff, because that's also quite possible. A window capture existing this one, and that's not the one that I want, so let me get the right one. That's the right one. I got the right one there. And I'm going to crop it a little bit and make it work good. Put the live chat over on this side and put it underneath the Blender window. So I can at least have some idea if anybody does happen to throw a chat my way, I'll be able to see it and know that it's happened. But I don't plan to spend a whole heck of a lot of time doing anything like that. Chatting, I mean. But I don't have to do nothing while I do the thing that I've got to do. Like, I can also talk, explain what it is that I'm doing. And while I recognize the size of the window isn't exactly huge here in the middle, I'll be making the window bigger at various points as I'm doing things. So what I'm working on specifically here is a sequence I've taken from Ford Fisher's live stream. I'm going to use this as the master time code for any work that I do on a Charlottesville video from this point onward. I imagine this is going to be the base timeline for the rest. And what we've got here is a series of sequences that have been cut one way or the other. And if you look, the only difference between them is some of these have got this one value flipped and some of them don't. That's when Ford's talking to the camera, so the camera's been flipped. I've decided to hard code most of those, although I haven't done it right at the very beginning of this video. I've left it this way for now. I might get to that again later. It's inconsequential at the beginning. I don't think there's any confusion, but something which is really cool to notice at the very beginning here, I've got a couple of different marks put down in the Blender file. We just skip back here. As far as I can tell, the Challenger is audible from this moment onward. Long before the first moment that we see the Challenger. But it's clear when we see it. right there, that the reason it's audible is you can hear what it's doing as it paces Ford Fisher. No question about it. The direction of the camera is forward. The only way for the sound to be reaching the microphone in a way is for it to be fairly close and for the sound to be bouncing off nearby surroundings so he hears it. It's funny because I'm going to want to do a sound reduction, like a noise reduction pass. And when I do that noise reduction pass, I don't want to inadvertently get rid of the sound of the Challenger. So I'll be looking for a place to get that way later. There's a place here that says water long Mo stab. That's going to be a motion stabilization place. And we have 2 marks for the last time that this Challenger was spotted. Here, when it stopped at the red light. And then after the red light, here. Just as Ford addresses the camera. The way the human brain works, I'm going to say this and I'm going to say it out loud and I'm going to say it right now. The way the human brain works, there's certain rules for how you treat cameras so that you don't inadvertently confuse the people that you're presenting video data to. One of the ways that you can confuse them is this. Is to use the mirror effect and break what's called the line so that we lose idea of what side of the street we're on. And in what direction we're going. You don't even think to look for the Challenger when you know it's there. But if it's flipped, I think it's much more evident where the Challenger is as we go through the intersection. Sound of one car idling here that we're just passing, but a deeper sound also around it. I can zoom in on the waveform a little bit. These are background noises, and a lot of it is bass end. It's very easy to hear it. And I'm not piping any audio through here as I scrub. This is merely the frames of video which are associated with these moments in audio space. So you can see where there's a hard cut coming here between this clip and this clip. What side of the street is he on? Which direction is he going? So I think it's much better flipped. We also get an idea of what vehicles are behind the line of traffic with the Challenger. Pay attention. I'm going to do us all a favor here and change my blender space. Oh look, much better. You can even zoom in this way. Gray SUV. Dark sedan. Looks like a 4-door, yeah. Another SUV beyond that, and then the Jeep. Goodness gracious, there's someone in the chat? No way. Haha. There is a delay, by the way, between the chat being typed and the chat being broadcast. But that's the only delay. So yeah, the Jeep after that. It's only 4 vehicles in the line, was it? I'm real curious about this timeline after the switch. So I've marked a couple more marks here. I'm going to be doing a motion stabilization pass on the video from here to here, which is a long pass, and there's going to be lots of places where it ain't cool, but we'll make do. And I'll show you how to do it in Blender as the evening goes on. Anybody in chat? No, nobody in chat. Darn. I should be so lucky. We'll see, we'll see. I don't need headphones either, which is even cooler, but I could be listening to music or something. Which is generally how I make do situations like these. Motion stabilization in Blender is under a whole other set of windows. What I've been using here to switch views and whatnot, I guess I could turn on screencast keys. Oh, under preferences, under add-ons. I think I might be looking on the wrong place to do something, what I want to do here. Editing. Input. Or that's going to be something I'll look up. Ugh, well, the heck with it. Motion tracking. Here be the way forward. I'm going to select another scene here. Just FFL. That's the name of the scene. And I need to add a new clip. Now the clips I've been rendering. And I got them all done. So I'm going to move them into the appropriate file location. So I'll know exactly where to find them. Ooh. Spell things correctly. Pasta la hasta. And I'm going to add a new clip here. The long mo stab. And let's get this correct. I need to be right on the right frame, which I ain't right now. Previous marker. Motion tracking. So it looks like I am on the correct marker here. No, but it ain't gonna work. I have to go right to the beginning. Frame offset. It's 4,000. Ooh, frame. Nope. Jump to next marker. guess I had this the wrong way around. You got it right. So the start frame of the clip itself is going to be 1 for wherever it gets put, but a frame offset in this particular scene that I'm linking the data to, because I'm in just FFL, it's the scene itself, and this is a clip from that scene. So I'm going to overlay it in the scene itself when I render off a final motion stabilized copy. And then once that renders complete on that one clip, I'll keep that separately and never have to render it again. So it needs to be tracked properly once and then rendered. Shouldn't be too hard though. I had to make sure I got that right marker. Jump to previous marker. So it needs to be back some. Wrong direction. Reload the clip. I wonder if I start here, will it now offset again? Shouldn't, right? Good. So I can just quickly limit the data for display purposes. Here we go. Quicker way to do it here. And that'll do nicely. Motion tracking is a fun pastime where the computer does a lot of the work. And it's not that it's hit or miss, it depends on what kind of source you're working with. Ford Fisher's live stream is at exceptionally high bitrate. I'll give it that, and it's because the frame size is good. As far as I can tell. So one of the things I'm going to be doing to figure out how to track this is to consider what colors are adding the most to the scene individually. Where the areas of contrast are, which are likely to remain in the shot no matter what happens, so that the motion tracking data is good. That might be a good mix. Just the blue channel or the red and or the green and the blue. Green gets just as much. It's probably going to be one of these windows on this side. And I might guess at something over here, and as he moves across the street I'll merge it in. trick with motion stabilization too, especially if you want a really good solid track for a long period of frames, is keeping more than one control point in the frame at all times. And this thing will configure it out automatically. And I could just let it grind and talk in the background as it happened. But I don't want to do that. I'd much rather do this by hand and figure out where is a likely good area for. And one of the ways I can do that is to just put down a test one. I'm going to use a tracking fast motion or blurry footage. Fast motion is probably better. Pre-pass. Only need loc. Only want the green. Find a good something. Corner of the building strikes me as the best pick. There's a trick to this too, is finding an area of relative lightness to track to, or high contrast. And I'm going to pick the exact corner, allowing for a bit of blur. Then I'm going to do this. Change the search parameter. This is a search area that this pattern will be searched for in the next 2 frames or next frame or so. Let's call this corner for now. I might want to change that. I make this a little bit smaller. So this controls the color channel that it's being tracked in the video data. I can get all the color or just one of the 3 channels. You can also give these tracking points weight for various purposes. For now, I'm using it for motion stabilization. Immediately I have an option to lock it to view, which will tend to stabilize the video anyway. So there'll be an immediate result to this. Since we can count 1, 2, you get me? I'm going to move that over a bit, and I'm going to move this back over here a bit. Maybe make this smaller again. Didn't quite catch that one. So what I did there is I hit the G key, and then to get precise measurement I hold shift and lock location with the left mouse button. And to skip ahead I'm holding Alt and arrow key. Change in perspective there fooled up the track. Oh, same problem there. So it doesn't like the tracking that set, or doesn't like the parameters I've selected so far. That's part of the reason why it's not agreeing to track too well. Let's make this smaller. Oh well, let's try it this way instead. And now overall size it down. See how this works. I'll move it in again. Nope. Huh. There's a bit of a miss. That point, friend, that point. Made it quite far that time. Right here. You see why it didn't make it? Search range wasn't quite big enough. Let's try this now. Ooh, too big. To clear that last one and not have it turn up again, I'll do that. So this is clear the tracks from the current position onward. This also, we also have a choice to refine tracks for like a specific frame range. I'll try making this a little bit bigger. Nope, still wants to do it. Really don't need to see any of this right now. If you're wondering why I'm wearing the thing on my face, it's the reason is simple. And I started doing streams, a month and a half ago, maybe 2. And I was given this bandana a long time ago, and I was immediately struck with the idea that perhaps I would wear it a bit like a surgical mask from time to time. A little bit of a pop click filter, if you think about it. You'll hear a lot of instead of heavy breathing or spit. Oh, I was watching that happen in the little window, not the big one. So I'm obviously doing something wrong for this. That doesn't help. That might. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller again. Didn't even want to make it that one frame, huh? Fine, have it your way. Big jump. This might even be easier if I was using an inverted color set. Strikes me I might be better off like scrapping this one, since I know it doesn't want to take, doesn't even want to try to track it. So let's go back to the beginning. Select Mr. Track, X to delete it. No loss, no worry. This doesn't destroy any data. That's another reason why I use a separate clip which has been rendered once already. I'm wondering about using these. Or that. If I track the blue channel, and I use blue for the tracker, and I use blurry instead. Loc, pre-pass, normalize. Let's see how this works. Holding control to create a track point. I'm going to actually try the same thing again, see whether or not it does better. Lock. Let's get this right where I want it. Let me see, how do I consider this best? How about there? Or even there. There's a bunch of these vertical uprights, so it's going to jump between them. That's why I'd rather go for the dark contrast than the light one. So there would be the best place. And if I wanted to try to be sneaky about it, get it to track better, I might even try to do locus scale at certain points. So it's going to estimate how big to make this control area as I get closer to it or whatever. Let's see. No motion the first couple frames. Shoot. Let's see how that last one was again, just so I know. Right here. Search area not large enough. Try about that big. Save it. I'm going to save here now. The old trick out of Blender is save often. Simply because it is free, it doesn't mean it's perfect. I've often heard free software called chintzy. I'm like, what the hell you mean chintzy? Chintzy software? Fuck you. Didn't have to worry about the coding yourself? Why are you complaining? So it's making a deduction about the size of the area here, which is incorrect. I'll do the scaling, is my short answer to this. Right about there, yeah. That's a little bit higher. So I can actually select this and move it with my sometimes it'll let you move it with your, how should I say this, your keyboard keys, but you can also use, like I just grabbed it here, but if I want to constrain it to the x-axis, I type X, and if I want to constrain it to the y-axis, as I do right now, you type Y. So that's the one that's incorrect. Let's just use right here. This looks like a good spot to try for. Large jump. Oh, do you see what I see? I was trying to keep this edge above the void area, so it means I got to scale up again. Let's move this over here. I also have an option to rotate these, and it will use the rotation, how to say this, it will use the rotation data as well as the scaling data to figure out how to manipulate the size of the image as well. This is really, really chancy here. Not at all what I call good. Let's try this for starters. I want to see the full picture. But yeah, that'll be pretty stable. If I find a better picture or a better channel. So if I zoom this way, I'm holding Control key and middle mouse button to scale this graph. I want to get an idea of what the limits are. So I'm scaling in a little bit to see what the motion is like, and as you can see here, I think the green channel is the Y, the red channel is the X. There's more motion in this way than there is this way. or at least I've got a really good Y track, but the X track is making it difficult to track too, so I might have to look for something better to track. I didn't even bother to name this one this time, so let's X that again. And now I'll consider this once more. Stands to reason I should keep something in here tracked too, because I know there are several points in the clip where that's all I'm going to see. And some points where I won't see anything at all, like just a second ago. But once it's laid in the clip, the tracking point will have disappeared. I'm also thinking about the fact that I know some of these tracking points I'm measuring from a great distance. And I could do it all in one long cut though. Now this is to make sure that I've got the right frames loaded here. I don't want any jumping back in that track which I saw happen a second ago. I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. So I'm going to make sure too. I think that's correct. I think this is right. So it's going to have to be something here. That looks like a perfect one too. As you can see though, there's a bit of a danger that if I got one, I might get the second one by mistake. Let's lock to it. Didn't even make one frame. I picked the wrong one. Well, let's try it this way. Still going to have the same issue. Is this a rote loc or just a loc right now? I can't get away from this corner, but what I'm thinking is processor intensive, so I'm going to be careful and save often. I'm thinking about making this a non-square point. What I'll do is make a shape so that the picture is in perspective and square, right? And as the data changes, I'll change the shape and the scale, and this way it should be able to track reliably to this. I'm going to also rotate that using the R key. Then it gives me the more along the lines of what I'm looking for, and I probably should make this tighter to here. It's mostly like a wild guess on what the shape should be. It's locked already. Let's try it. It wants to skip down to the other window. Same pattern though, see? It's happier with that pattern and it locks faster on the Y again. But it misses the X. Or it doesn't actually miss the X at all. I think it takes for little motion what the camera does. So I'm going to scrub the one that it goes to. How could I fix that? Hey, well, since I've only got a limited number of frames and I don't mind frame by framing this section, I have frame by frame much longer sections than this. We'll put this in perspective. Like so. Move the search area like so. And take our time. Made the same problem. Oh, it's much happier on that window though, till it jumps. So I think the answer actually presented itself there. I could look at here in the same light. Make this bigger again. It doesn't like being beyond the boundaries of the clip though. I'm going to be very careful about how to like search for this pattern. The bigger the pattern, the harder the job it makes it. Probably this line is the better thing to go after. Blender doing the math here. Other side of the street is even pretty good when I think about it. Something like this might do well, but it's going to be off camera quite a bit of the time. Now, biggest benefit, far away. It's going to be blurry, but it'll be constantly there, or I can estimate where there is. So let's see what I can do with this. I could use a square pattern here, a squarish one. In fact, I'll start with a fresh one. Scale it up. We're using the blue channel, which is reflecting basically whatever light comes in from the blue channel, whatever blue light's been reflected here. Most of the day, it's daytime glare, and this is the side of the sun. So there's a lot of blue data. I don't know if I'd be better looking for the top piece here or on this corner. Let's try it. Boy, that one took off like a rocket, didn't it? Wow. First number of frames like a boss. shouldn't have a problem making a jump that big. So grab Y and then bump it up a little. That looks pretty good. Oh. So part of the problem here is that the video data is rotating and changing as he comes around the corner. So it doesn't know what to track to anymore. So here comes the time to change the pattern. Look for the line that makes the vertical line over here. And now think about what perspective tells me about this side. And that line I can match with the curve line here. And then rectify the picture one way or the other. I'd say it's better to do that one maybe. Let's try it. Yeah, the shape is closer to what's going to be next. I know that. Rotations matter here. It is pretty close. I've picked a wonky old shape here. I think I'm better off trying to do something like this. It's next shift. Not much the way. Wow. Does not like this shape either. It was tracking itself better, wasn't it? So we had no problem up to here. I'm also used to working in dark with a light dot. That's one thing I've been thinking about a lot here. Tracking to high contrast means I would have to use something against the sky. Gee, what's that? Gee, what is that? 4014. I'll write that number down. Tell me, is that there more than one frame? Is that a leaf? Is that a leaf on a twig? Tell me that's a leaf on a twig. I'll be happier. It's not moving. Yeah, it's a leaf on a twig. thinking aloud to myself. I'm looking at the windows behind, and I'd still think I'm better off going for something in the mid-range foreground here. So now that I've already tried this track out in that location, I'm going to move it over here. Scale it up for a second, forget that the Y coordinate correct. Now I'm going to scale it on the X coordinate. And if I don't want to do that to the pattern, I can shift right click the pattern away and just get a square picture. So now as I get closer to it, I'm going to want to raise, like unpull that shrink so that it's so that it comes out better again, and I can select that or deselect that for scaling and rotation purposes. This one won't rotate. That's a search area, won't rotate, but so here's the next question. Where's the darkest picture available here? Would it actually be full color? Doubt it. I think it's blue too. This is probably the best thing to look for, now that I'm really looking at it. Delete that one, try another new one. Still gets most of everything else. Previous frame. I want this to be keyframe, for goodness sake. Ah, normalize, yes. Pre-pass, no. Let's try both these things tonight. Lock. That wasn't bad. It thought it had it there for a second, didn't it? Let's say I was just a tiny bit more, what, I don't know how to describe it, selective. No, scale again. Save. Close. Same problem starts again, I bet. I am very tempted to do the perspective switch. That one wasn't bad. One thing that I don't do much in the Blender motion stabilization realm is, how to say, there's a thing there for refinement, which is to say it takes this track which we've already worked on and then tweaks it so that the pattern stays even better. I'm just checking something here. Don't know why it is I'm getting like this video error. Ah, this explains it. This one, I want to be here. So yeah, huh. I'm going to close my other one. This could cause a crash, very likely. There's been this like persistent video bug going on with what I see, and I don't like it. So I'm going to switch this pattern up a little bit. Think about the shape of a window. It's kind of what I need to mirror with the pattern. It gets so close, but then it skips. Je ne sais pas. Should I make this bit a little bit smaller maybe? So it's got less stuff to check. Should I rotate it maybe? And update the pattern. Should I make the pattern smaller again? Or is it better bigger? Inquiring minds want to know, but that's the problem. This ends up in this pattern. Let's try this then. Let's try smaller. Make the scale the search area bigger. Now we get the next issue. Dark alongside of white. So the search area is too big, and these combinations is what's messing it up. Huh. Skip the next one. That's smaller again, see what happens. And same junk. Same problem. Same darn issues. This strikes me as needing to get bigger again. It also needs to be rotated. Maybe if I did this. Think like a perspective drawing. In which case, something like that. Does that look pretty good here? Holding middle mouse button generally works as a grab and move tool in Blender. Not always. In 3D space, it's not the case. But in this case, yes it is. So now that I've got that on, better. Big jump that it didn't catch quite, I can dig that. Has the perspective switched a little? Maybe. Should I perhaps recenter this? Make it smaller? No, it doesn't need to be smaller. It needs to be a little bit bigger. We're back to this. Jumps the gun, goes to the next place. Scale it lower. What I'm surprised is it's not making the leap that this needs to be here next to this. So I might have been picking the wrong point. Even though I had such good results at the beginning here. I didn't use the same shape the whole way through either, did I? So let's try this now. That looks pretty good. Here's a way of testing whether or not it's centered. Is that showing up there? Yeah, of course it is. Great. Wonderful. I think this is lovely. Ooh. I'm still getting these weird moments on video, which tells me I've got to like do something like this. Everything cool on stream here. Right. It gets the first several frames perfect and then it messes up. So Loke. Let's see whether or not it gets this. See? Why it would make this leap, I could never understand it. It needs like a uniquely colored space. Something that won't be mistaken from frame to frame. Let's engage in a proper search. Ooh, wow, see? Oh, I picked the wrong one there. Just G would do better. How about that? We got it set for Affline still, and it's set for keyframe as well. So I'll make this smaller. I know full well it's going to jump between the two of these. I could do this. I think it's going to still jump between the two of them if I do. Oh, that was a mistake. That search area wouldn't need to be that big. Still locked. Affline's doing good for a search pattern. Ah. And it misses. Wow. Affline. I don't know if normalize is the right thing to do here. Pre-pass might be better. No, that doesn't look right either. Let's try that one. Nope. So it looks to me like the Affline search is what's messing that up. Huh. point, that should be getting down here more. This one should be getting up here more. Save. And start skipping again. Ooh, we were doing so good. Switch it back to Loc for a second. Now, here's how to do this with Affline. Before I switch it back, I rotate it to make sure that it's matching the areas that I want as close as possible. Yeah, knew that would happen. But I'm waiting for it, ready for it. Forewarned, forearmed. Oh, it jumped size too, didn't it? Scale the X factor. Clear that last one, go to Loc again. That looks good to me. I think I'm going to try to switch it back to Affline here and let it have a smack. No, man. No way. No how. Well, I see why that didn't take. Too big a blurry area. Rotation required. See how it's moving. So that's part of the issue here. If I don't, I wouldn't call it religiously, but if I don't consistently make the adjustments to the image to let it know what to expect next frame, it don't. Hoy. There's an honestly big jump, but I'm not surprised that it didn't catch that one. Not at all. I got a feeling I should make this pattern smaller. That's the closest one of these has been tonight. This is so tempting as an aft-line target. I think this is what I'm going to do. I was thinking to myself there. Dangerous occupation, don't quote me. Here's how to do this, I think. Pick a couple reference points. Stick to them. That is going to change. Area of contrast is this. So relatively speaking, this image will stay the same. What I got to do though is make sure that I get the right angles on each of these lines. So that I'm really sure about the scale of this aft-line perspective bit. Or the aft-line transformation, I should say, which is going to be going along here. Maybe that stands a chance in heck. Scale Y. I'm also thinking I can move the pattern here separately to the, this might be a better strategy early on. So I get a fake feeling of it being in the middle, so to speak. And then scale it up a little bit. Aft line, no pre-pass keyframes. Let's give it a smack. I don't see anything in chat. Okay, well that's okay. Didn't even make one. If I use the red channel, huh? Guess perspective frames will be better, yeah. So we've got the first one. Now do you see what I've got done now? Something different. I'm measuring two different points now. I'm getting my image for pattern data from here, but it's offset from the center. I'll turn off the image for a second. It's offset from the center of the tracking point by some finite number of pixels, and it's the top part of the same pattern. So it tends to look for this area, but then anchors it to another area below it. And then once we're done the tracking, I'll just put that back to here, and the track will be solid on here. It also lets me track this point from other places in the image, but it won't use it. It can't track this point as well from anything which isn't too close to it. So this is a way for me to try to sneak around some of the limitations of blurry or badly exposed footage. Wow, wow. See what it did there? Caught the camera move. Wonder if I didn't turn off normalize. Okay, I want to do this next one myself, is what this means. Do. The rotation might be what's throwing it off here. Can't see it being that it needs much of a more of an area to search in. Might be that I'm better off searching for an area smaller than this though. In which case what I do is consider something more like this. Instead, and try to match the lines. Stands to reason that this end's got to be shorter than this one, right? And then that needs to be centered. Maybe that'll have an easier time. Oh, a little too much. A little too much there, eh? This doesn't strike me as a very good piece of footage. Lose a lot of time on it, but it needs to be done. So I'm doing it. I'm going to put whatever I can into it. It's solid as a rock once it's on. That's the first frame. Clear the works. And we're in perspective keys. I'm going to try something. I'm going to watch something for a second. Crash time. The CPU slowing down over here. pause briefly maybe. I don't know. I might have to. I see a big bump in frame rate. Stream's having problems. Waiting for it, waiting for it, waiting for it, waiting for it, waiting for it. Is it going to run or not? Here we go. Looks like we're up. Recaptured. Don't see anything happening on the live chat. And I wonder what it was. That's probably what was slowing me down. I think I'm back. Yeah, everything working? Crashing Blender happens frequently, depending on situation, but I got such a heavy workload going on in this one video between various scenes that's what's what determines what will and won't work too well. Let's put it that way. So yes, it is an exercise, TC or TDC. It is definitely an exercise. And it's also an exercise in like patience, because if this doesn't work terribly well, I might be better off actually waiting until maybe around about here to cut to it. Just to find something which would track better. I'm thinking the corner of the building in a distance. Earlier on, I was doing tracking with Grassy Knoll, and I was using things over here on this side of the street with his camera. Worked like really good. Thinking that this is the best pattern to look for. I'm stepping 10 frames at a time here by using the shift key with the arrow keys up and down. Okay, be careful with that though. Shift back gets you to the start frame as defined in the timeline down here. And sometimes that means that you skip past things you don't necessarily want to skip past. I'm going to stick this over here so I can find it. Now normalizing is to do with the way that light is handled. And matching previous frame versus keyframe. I've had various use in both, various results I should say, using both. I wouldn't call it necessarily great. Like sometimes I find this they skip around and don't necessarily track too terribly well, and that's partly the reason why the strategy you're using is not conducive to ignoring the pattern or previous frame or whatever. And it takes more time. Like pre-pass is probably required if you want to use a nav line or a perspective tracker. But I'm going to take a guess that perspective tracking is the better deal here. So the question, go for the close thing, which I know is going to fall off frame first. And then switch for other tracking points, like allow for offsets. This is technically the most difficult thing I've ever tried to track. Because the camera is changing perspective constantly. He crosses the street here and then he starts moving forward. So there's two different types of camera motion. Turns in there, that doesn't help anything. That I guarantee you. Another bump in frame rate. Hope this isn't going to be like a constant feature. It might be just where I was skimming through so much video data there. Definitely giving me trouble. Huh. I'd like to change one other thing here in the stream settings. I'm going to be right back again. Okay. See how this goes. Change the bitrate a little bit. Nobody watching now? Dang. Dang, dang, dang. I can see Blender work well for a couple hours. That'd be great. Yeah, I knew that. I think I figured out what was going on here. Okay. Watching this like the friggin' hawk. Is this going to happen every time I get through in this clip? I don't know. This clip goes all the way, well, through to here. And then there's a zoom I plan to do, and the next I'm going to do 2 separate motion stabilization passes here. I should do the simple one first. It will be like, well, it's done. The difficult one in itself is such a challenge. I'm very tempted to go at it. I'm going to reload the clip here. Make sure that I've got the right data frames. See that? Yeah, I got that. Save it again. I soon need to get a cup of tea or something too. There's preface. There's perspective. That's going to become less and less visible the farther down the road it goes. That's going to be behind the bus as the bus gets closer. Useless. Automatically detect treat features. Let's see if we can't figure out some of these are worth tracking or not. That one I don't like. Oh shoot. Control Z. That one, that one, that one, that one. Both these. This one, this one. Interesting. Interesting. Wouldn't have thought to track moving tracker, like moving targets. Not the usual use of that software. Both these, that one, those look good. Oh, and there's one there too. Let's select them all. Oh, hang on a second. That's their frame, right? Yeah. So now if I go control back, they start tracking their features. See which one's messed up. These are perspective as well. I'm going to select all of those. Ooh, shoot. And delete them. Let me try track features here, like auto detect features. There's a bunch. These are too early to be useful. None of these are good. I consider that one. That one no, that one no, that one no. X. Oh, wait now. I know what I did wrong. Turn off perspective. I only want a lope tracker. We'll do this detect features thing again. I don't like that one. 10, 11, 12, 13. Look. Again, I don't need these. These two. 3 maybe. I agree with those wholeheartedly. Where's the fourth one? 1. Oh, over there. Right. Yeah, he's no good. This is on the very first frame. So, let's see what happens if I start letting this auto track. Huh. Slid all the way to the edge. The light changes around the corner is why. I don't think this is the right one to do it with. One of these maybe. That doesn't really look good to me either. The bus is going to block that one. Pain in the butt. Something here. I think I'd be able to get this pattern. This would, on whole, would probably be really good. So the real question is, where do I put the tracking point? Somewhere close to dead center. That corner is going to stay where it is. Right. So it gets bigger, it gets bigger. Everything looks bigger again. I don't know if I should switch off to another window or not. Last time I did, it caused a crash. Lock it. Was doing so great. Knock that out. Turn perspective off. Clear those two. I'll put this back to perspective again for a second. I think I should probably be smarter about the search pattern here too. Oh, that was doing decent too about that frame. So why did they decide to get smaller rather than bigger? Huh. Definitely wants to try to do it. I'm not going to let it. I think this one's got to come up here maybe. Is there anything is like regular and, well, predictable as brickwork? This is like you can tell where the shadow is here as opposed to the top lip, because this must be a lot like a line here, right? Viet. Alright, let's keep loc for a minute. I don't mind so much the rotation, we'll fix that after. I'm going to clear this for a second. I'm going to roll this way. Bring this in, bring this up, bring that there, change the pattern just a bit. And consequently, yeah, it does get the same track as before, but it looks to be a lot smoother than the one I had before. If I scale the X smaller here, Oh, it doesn't want that. Well, let me do the... Ooh, right. You see why it's having trouble all of a sudden. Here you go. Scale must increase. Perspective is shifted. And think about what the size of a square is on either side of the selection box. It's so blurry, right? It's so blurry, that's the best that it can do. And the search area being out of bounds does not help. I'm going to clear the points from here. I'm going to try tracking loc and rot for a second. Yeah, it made better sense of it there, didn't it? Let's increase the search areas this way, but decrease the search area this way. Oh, starting to get there. Let's decrease the top area, but not the bottom one. So now it's starting to get an idea of why it wants to do certain things. Looks to me like there needs to be a rotation made there. This is coming closer and closer to the side of the wall. As he goes down the street, the wall is going to change its perspective, resulting finally in the tomfoolery. I'm saving frequently this time. That looks pretty good to me. Wow. Upward motion caught me out that time. So scale the Y. It's easier to track a light. A street lamp or something like that tracks beautifully almost every time. It requires like a minimum of effort. Incredible, really, how little effort like a street lamp or something needs, just because it's constant light source. It can even figure out from the deformation of an image which way the motion is. It's like presumed camera motion. think the better thing to do here would be to move this down a bit. Look. Yes, sir. Oh, it's still too far. Big jump coming. Looks like there's a bit of a rotation change, maybe. Maybe I should make this bigger. Is that what it's telling me? Maybe I should scale this down again. If that goes off screen at all, like, it's just not going to track. It will not track at all. I would think this needs to rotate a little bit, yeah? Maybe to about there. I don't need this selected. Oh, I see why. How about there? Yeah? How about this thing comes out to about there? Huh? Both these things. Oh, I think maybe I should make this smaller again, so as not to overload it too much. You can also think of this line as being the one to parallel up here. If I was to imagine a line here, right? To get an idea of what this pattern box should look like. And since I know this is having a hard time, I might even want to give it a little more data. It has to be like precise about what to focus on here. But the closer I get to something, I generally find it's better to zoom in on it's much better to zoom a control point in on the thing that you're aiming it at than it is to zoom it out. Zooming it out means that it consistently has to search for the same area bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It takes longer and longer and longer for the computer to come up with the right answer. Here's the big switch. I gotta keep looking down for my keyboard because it's on my lap. I'm not exactly Mr. Wireless tonight. Yeah. This is going much better now that I've got like consistent idea of what to do with the footage, or what to do to get the track that I want. Like what I'm going to have to put up with for 1 or 2 tedious hours, and then afterward I've got the perfect result. Never was much for woodworking though. Judging by the size of this jump and the size of this search area, I was wrong to change this too much. It's having a harder time tracking this way. I actually know this from this data at the top of the screen here too. Look at how little motion is on the y-axis compared to the x-axis. So the search needs to be bigger on the sides than it does on the top and bottom. And that's just by the numbers. Let's have a peek at this, how this evolves right now. So we actually do have quite a few frames tracked here. More than a second. Quite a bit of bumping around though. And since this is locked, what I was interested in here was this. Just at the beginning of the stream, if you're joining the stream at a later point, or you're watching the stream after it's been done, this is one of the reasons I'm doing this, is I'm interested in getting a zoomed in view of what traffic is above here. Something's turning here in the line of traffic. We've got a couple of vehicles. It's a dark SUV is turning, yes. Pickup truck, maybe? What's in front? What's up here? Questions for the ages. Questions for the ages. So a lot of work just to get a payoff here, but I'm darn well doing it. It's not like this is spray paint or anything, but I am having fun doing it. Because I need this mask. That's what I mean. The other thing about doing this kind of motion tracking is I actually do have an option to change this pattern. Like we're getting like a lot of weird artifacting and stuff. I could change the shape of this pattern entirely right now to take in the parts of the image which are more sensible. Like I could go something like this now that I'm getting close to the building, and get this whole 4-bar pattern. I could even try to put this tracking center over in another area, or track this point in relation to this pattern, which is really what this bigger thing should be doing anyhow. But let's give this a smack for a frame or two. Maybe too much, huh? Oh, why didn't that work? That did. Scale to Y. Save it again. Oh, pattern's getting to the edge of the screen. See that? So here comes trick number one. Trick number one, hour and something into the stream. Not really true. Not trick number one. Trick number a million at this point. But this tracking pattern is just as happy to track this below as it is to track this, even though it's going at this point on the screen. So what I'm going to do is select the tracking pattern, hit G twice, and it moves the pattern independent of the point. As you might notice though, because perspective, pattern doesn't want to fit down here quite as well as it did up there. What I'm going to have to do, in short, is alter the pattern twice. Once for above, once for below. But for the period of time that it's off screen, this will buy me a bit of time. If I don't want this point to move too much, I have to keep it on a plane. It has to either follow a vertical line straight up and down that it maintains motion in a side-to-side pattern, or locks to this pattern, right? Locks to this frame. Like this depth. And ideally, I would keep this point closer than this. Like, keep the discrepancy in the frame smaller than that. The bigger the difference, especially, and if I was to try to cross-track this point, say over here or down here somewhere, big difference, like big changes would be like would correspond to big changes in this location, which is not good. It's not what I need. I need this to keep tracking. So what I'm going to do is make this pattern the new focus. See if it doesn't track. See the change up above? It tracks. But that last one, even though it got the rotation right, it missed the track. The track is shifted. So I think what I'm going to do is take it over from here instead and keep it closer to, and change the pattern this way. Ooh, stuck. Here's the easy way of fixing that. This strikes me as good. It strikes me as having a good chance of actually catching it and keeping the right position. It's going to rotate a little bit too, and the rotation will matter to where that point goes. Clear all future points. If I zoom in on it, turn this off. GG, hold shift. I can get it right on the point. M to make the footage in the clip channel hide or come back so that you can clearly see it. What I'm thinking about doing here is changing this pattern while maintaining this point. I might have to turn off rote for a second. I think what I'll do is go to here. See what happens. See how the center is tracking really good. I'm still getting, well, until it gets to the corner of the image. It's tracking, well, I wouldn't call it really good. You can see how the center is better when the tracking pattern's in the very center of the image. But the minute it shifts, it changes too much, like it starts to go like this. Right there. So I'd like to find a better track than I've been getting. Right now this line shows really clearly too. If I turn off the thing, you can see how this is sloped over here. If I had my druthers, that line would be like that. Straight up and down. That's the tracking I'm really desiring here. Oh, there is something there that I could try to track specifically. Why don't I? This area could be much smaller. Maybe even charge rote here. See, the presumption in my location is not really much worse than it had been. I think what I'm going to do is correct it in the top part. But this really isn't any good. Huh. Here's something which I frequently do when I get to a point like this. So I've done the track several times and I know that there's going to be a problem area coming up. Now is a good time to have a look at what's happening next, because it will determine if I should be spending a lot of time fooling around in this area of the image, and maybe it's time to switch to another track. One thing I've been thinking about here too is it is possible for me to find a few things like this to track temporarily, not for the full length of the track, and then how to stitch them together from a bunch of temporary tracks, like to pass off from the tracking of this point to the tracking of another point without there being too much of a jumping around in the image consequent to it, which is fairly simple stuff. Is it giving me any numbers now? No, it isn't. I might have to stop here shortly too. I don't know if there's anybody watching. I don't see anybody watching. That doesn't mean there isn't. Oh, I might have to stop shortly too, is what I'm trying to get around to saying. Take a short reset break. But if I do, I'll keep the stream up. I could stick something in the background playing. So the long and the short of it though is, since now I'm coming to the, trying to determine if I want to keep going on this track or not. The reflection is so very tempting. I don't know whether or not there's anybody watching. The reflections are tempting. They're tempting and very tempting. You know, this stuff might be good, because reflections are so very tempting. Let me see, previous frame perspective. I'd say we do rote. What I'm curious about is how dark is that going to be there, and those, there's a bunch of these crosses, which means if I get a really small search area for the, like, tight on the cross here, like, it's better for me to look at this whole image until I get close to it and then focus in on a specific one, since that's what I was doing in this one anyhow. I'm not going to destroy this track yet. I'm just going to unlock it and leave it off to the side kind of thing. So now I've got another set of tracking presets. I'm going to lock to the brightest point so that I got an easy time remembering, hey, what it is I'm tracking to. Because it's what it is. And I could go as far as this, but I think I'm going to go like as far as this instead. The brightness of the light, the glare off that window, might not be great. I haven't got it set to normalize either, but that might be a better idea, because I recognize it's a It's a mirror. And road's what it's going to track. So let's save and see how this goes. Oh, wait. Go back in time. Right. Let's try locking again. Let's try scaling that up a bit. Once again, same as the last track. I know that his camera work tends to be errors in this direction, not so much in this direction. So watch for motion on the x-axis, not so much on the y-axis. Right? It's changing perspective too quickly for me to track it, maybe. Yeah. As he makes the move, like it just switches down the line. I knew that when I was looking at the pattern. I got to get the whole pattern if I want to actually use that until I get close to it. Okay, then. Be that way. Okay, son. You win. It's a it ain't half hot mom joke, that one. It ain't half hot, Mom. And we're talking about Burma. There ain't going to be another pattern like that anywhere in this side of the image, and very unlikely in this side of the image. So let's see, shall we? I'm holding Alt and using the arrow key to make this auto tracking thing. You can see how the previous track is being considered against this one too. There's an overlay of graphs occurring. Wow. Wow. The light difference from frame to frame is so great. Well, it dawns on me too. I have the option of going the other direction here. The bus, again, not so much a bad problem. I might be better looking for this line than too big a line on the top. I like too big a pattern of data on the top. Like something like that, maybe. Scale Y, scale X. Okay, well, let's do that then. Fine. You can see the pattern I'm going after here. I mean, at least it does have a decent chance of always having a control point centered that I can find easily enough, right? I have to be careful with my rotations. And apparently scaling. Yeah, that looks good. So I might as well look at both of these again now. I still get the same image. Saint and Sinner. Thinking about the Kinks here tonight. Kink songs a note. Got a good mind to turn on some music, but it's definitely inviting a crash. And inviting a crash is not what I like doing. This doesn't look like a terrible one. So if this was a little bit bigger, you're telling me you'd find this frame? No, you would not. See, why you tease me such? Why you say such things, silly things, by me? Why you do so? Make no sense. Rotate. Wow. Looks pretty good there. It's not going to have an easy time tracking through this though. Wow, that's a pain. That's a big pain coming straight through. Oh, I added the wrong window. That makes a big difference. Blender is mouse sensitive, context sensitive, so as you can see it highlights the bar of the window piece that you're in. It also allows me to change things. Like I can right click on the edge of a screen pane like this one and add another screen in between by splitting or joining the area. So it's totally customizable when you're using it. Interesting piece of software for that kind of thing. When it comes to like doing the layouts of the various kinds of windows you want to use or need to look at, you can do a 3D window and then like a video strip window and then like a movie clip window like I'm in now, and all these windows, they work with one another. Wondering about the perspective shift there as the window comes across the street to it. I have to reload the clip. Oh shoot. Control Z. Reload. Well, since I've been doing this all evening, I'm getting not that far. I'm going to delete that one before it gets any further. I see something there I could try. This one needs to be loc wrote. Not really, just loc. It'll be keyframe, no pre-pass. I need a higher correlation value on it. I'm going to put this up to 73. And if you haven't guessed yet, what I'm going to do is after I scale this up to like that, deselect it, scale this one only. That's the pattern. Now, question. Track rotation, yes or no? Scale Y. Because if I want to do rotation, I can do that too. This will be a fast one if it works. Sometimes you can get a tracking point. The darn thing will go for hours. You leave it, you walk away from it, and let it figure it out on its own. Next thing you know, oh shoot, yeah, I don't need one here. I want this one. Let's figure this right. Let's not use this. Let's scale the X bigger. Scale the Y. Ooh. Scale the Y smaller. It's going off the edge of the image, true. But look how long it's going to be in the image. It's been staring at me in the face the whole time too. So this definitely has to be the way to go here. Let's try this again. Don't need this. Scale in the X direction a bit. Okay, the first one doesn't want to catch, but that's understandable. Because, you know, reasons. This is not visible. And the rotation is definitely off because I want these to be like balanced either side. That would be there, right? Gosh, why this wouldn't be making this jump, I have no idea. Looks to me like it didn't have more than a frame to go there. A pixel or two. Yeah, this is definitely the better way of going about this, I think. I'm still going to need two of them. Okay. Point number one. Since I know this is going off screen, I'm going to switch to this point. But the relationship otherwise should remain exactly the same, allowing me to do this quickly. And I could even try to keep doing it over here. But the danger is that I lose rotation like I really want. Like I do need rotation to be good here to maintain the tracking from frame to frame. And it's set to auto rotate, so it should be figuring that out here. Of course, there is things about the pattern changing subtly from image, like from moment to moment. One of those things is perspective as Ford crosses the street. I have in mind to put pre-pass on here. Sometimes it takes a little longer when pre-pass has been selected, but it's worth it. So notice I'm going to just switch straight over to mouse middle clicked on the X-axis generally to delimit it without having to hit the X key there. That's one of those mouse gesture / shortcuts that Blender does auto magically. It knows to use your mouse middle button as a special button for editing purposes. Wow, this is working perfectly, right? Look. Staring me in the face the whole time. Wow. Yeah, this looks like solid enough that I don't care how much fooling around I have to do at this moment. It's worth continuing. So if I go GG and change this position a tiny bit, let's say I scale it up and scale down the search parameter. Scale the X up, scale the Y down. Save it, reselect it. Yeah, that's my mouse tapping the keyboard there. It's like, when do you want it to stop, Ruddy? When are you going to stop? Wow, look at that. Oh, might have found a new winner. This will work better than... Oh, that was working better than any other pattern we've tried so far. So really here, the thing to do is probably to move that back. Notice how much change has been induced between this center and this, because I only constrained it to the same axis when we moved it over there. And now it's changed a little bit from having been rotated or like skewed a little bit by rotations and the like. I'm going to move this over a little bit. Let's see how that looks. Like, it is visible that I made the move, but it's not perfectly centered as we speak. So as a rule. Wow, we're soon gonna have to like make this bigger, I think. Sometimes just rotating it correctly lets it get back on track with a very, very small amount of fooling around. Scale on the X plane. Thank you very much. Here we go. Right. Let's just clear that and make sure there's nothing to fool. I'm saving frequently now. Look. GG. Constraint to the X. Once again, notice that I'm bringing it straight over on the axis when I reset this point. It still sees the same tracking stuff here, but it's using this part of the image only to track to. Oh, look at that. There was an artifact there introduced by GALORE, maybe. Here's a trick and a half. Since I know this is going to fall off, the software is telling me this is going to fall off screen next frame. I have to move or change the pattern, but at this point I want to keep tracking. I'm going to get sneaky about it. I'm going to make this, oops, I'm going to make the size of this a known distance smaller. S for scale, X to limit it to the X axis to make it thinner that way. 0.5. Rotation doesn't matter so much. Look what it did. It found its way back to home on a frame after. So until there we were doing good. I'm going to rotate it back so that this is more or less right. Now I'll scale X 2 and it's back to the size that it was. I'll double check the rotation, save it, and it's tracking good again. Oop. Made it that far. GG, constrain it to the X axis. So close and yet so far. That's wrong. That's correct. Scale it bigger. Save. Ooh, shoot. What's the issue here? I would think it's the size of the search area. taking its time to chug through these frames, but it is getting good results. I ain't gonna complain. So we're almost up to where the other one stops. And I guarantee you, I don't think these are going to be stopping quite as abruptly as those ones did. This already has a separate size control. I'm going to try this first. Yeah, it made one. Doesn't want to make the second one, and I can understand why. GG, move it over. There's one. Doesn't even make the one this time. Since I know that this point belongs here on the track, and this point will be moved back afterward. So now I go GG. Look at that. Stay. There's probably too much going on here. A little bit of blurriness there. See that again? There's like a after image being left behind by the glare coming off the bricks itself. Don't believe me? That's exactly what that is. Part blur, part glare. I don't need that. I want this search up here, really, and then make it bigger a bit. Save again. That's probably good there. You can see the harsh change in angles evident though in the patterns. No wonder it doesn't want to track too well. I should probably make it smaller on the x-axis right about now. Oh, I didn't expect to see that happen. Okay, we're in a new tracking territory here. This hasn't been touched by anything up till now. a little smaller before making this a little bit bigger. Grab. Wow, the size of these points in this particular moment is very, very pleasing. Chunky. I'm very tempted to do this, which would tend to make this measurement a little easier to make. Then I make this smaller, center it. We do this first, just to make sure. Here we go. And as I remember, yeah, there's a lot more X motion than there is Y motion. So if I'm losing track, it's X. Again, that was X, right? Bigger than the area. Okay, scale X, why don't you? We were doing so damn good here, eh? Ooh. Keep saving. Don't want to lose nothing. How are we doing here anyhow? I didn't know. His actual name, he's definitely a cop. Uh-huh. Someone asking a question. Did you just identify? You know what? The question that was just asked to me, I'm going to read it out and address it right now. Wait, did you just identify Grassy Knoll? Son of Neo said he wanted to remain anonymous. No. I think what Son of Neo actually said was the person who gave him the footage wanted to remain anonymous, but that he himself, Son of Neo, was curious about what could we, whether or not we could actually identify him visually in other footage, or could he be picked out? And the reason is because of what's on the footage. Because, among other things, Grassy Knoll talks to people. He talks to the people around him, and he talks to some of the police officers as well. So therefore, it's possible it's not the identity of Grassy Knoll which wants to remain anonymous here. It's the source which perhaps... In particular, yeah, it's the source, it's the provenance of the source which he said he was going to remain anonymous. And if you think about it, the person who took the footage might not mind that his person's identified, as long as he's not known as the one who leaked it, right? I mean, it's possible people on different kind of, how can I say this? People on police services or emergency services or hell lawyers or marketing execs, any of these people may actually have, you know, decent ideas or hearts. They care about people and care about the truth too. So that's what I think about that. I gotta roll this way. We're getting to a point where I know I'm going to have to stop tracking this for a second or two, because it's going to go off. Oh, it doesn't go off screen. Yes, it does. But hey, no need to worry. That bus sign is here to save the day. And if not that, the little sign on the wall right below it, right here, that would. Because it's flat on here and has a bared, like has a decent relationship to these other 2 points. So I go GG. The search pattern and everything can change. So I'm going to go scale x 0.5. That's too much. So scale x 0.3. 0.33. That looks better, yeah? What happens if we track that one? Makes one. See how the point is moving with respect to the one below it? We are lucky in this instance. Simply because we're still are we following the lock point? No, we are now. Simply because we can see the point we really want to track at the like all the time here. So I can grab X and move it back a tiny bit. And here we can grab X and move it back a tiny bit. Now now I'm getting a better idea of what this pattern should look like down here and what it needs to be attached to. And we go over here, go GG, oops, sorry, G, and move it back to where it should be. And that does look better. This is the tricky part. We'll know from the camera motion how badly that was, but that's not too bad. Again, I can now reset this location and rotation. I could even make this smaller, perhaps, would be a better idea. So first we'll move this one here. Now, obviously we've got this back. And obviously I can go scale X3 and get back basically what I had before. And I'd say G needs to move to just a little tiny bit that way. And that's probably enough like that, yeah? Just about. Almost perfect. Make that bigger. Starting to get a better idea myself as I even do this, like how I can get this tracking data to really lock in easily. Limit the selection, like limit the search area as much as possible to like frames that matter or pixels that matter. This is chugging away, but it's chugging good. Oh, wow. While I'm thinking about it, this one here, which I locked earlier, yeah, I'm getting rid of that in favor of this one entirely. didn't catch that one. Why not? Oh, it stands to reason I have to search farther on the side here, yeah? So scale X. Or move this one over a bit, huh? That looks perfect to me in terms of like the centeredness and up and down and stuff. I don't know why it doesn't want to make this search. I don't know why it should be having such trouble in tracking such little distances as that. Oh, maybe I see some of it. I might have wanted to decrease the size of this search area on the outside. Here comes trouble. Stands to reason. I go GG, I go over here. I go scale X and 0.33 once more. And I go GG and lock that one.